Write the equation of each line described below. First line is a line with a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 0, 7. Well, if I have a point at 0, 7, if I was just going to look at that on an xy coordinate system, that point x is 0, y is 7, that ends up being the y-intercept value. So I know that 7 is my y-intercept, and I know the slope of this line. So this is pretty straightforward, right? Y equals -2x plus 7 as the answer for part A. For B, it says a line has a slope of -3/2 and an x-intercept of 4, 0. Well, x-intercept's a little bit different. That's not the y-intercept. So for this problem, I do know that my slope is at the point 4, 3. I'm sorry, -3, 2. So down 3 over 2. And I know that I have this point x is 4 and y is 0. So you can see I know x, I know y, and I know the slope. And I end up plugging all three of those into the equation y equals mx plus b. So y becomes a 0, and for my slope I write 3/2. And then for my x value, I go ahead and plug in the 4 that I had in this point. When I plug all those things in and simplify it, I get 0 equals -6 plus b. That -6 comes from the fact that I multiplied -3/2 and 4, which is -12/2, which is -6. So that becomes 6 is b, or b equals 6. So my y-intercept for this problem is 6, and my slope is -3/2. That's why the equation of that line is y equals -3/2 x and then plus 6. So the last part says, right, the equation of a line that is perpendicular to the line in part B with an x-intercept at again at 4, 0. So on this one, if I know the two lines are perpendicular, their slopes are going to be opposite reciprocals of each other. And I just wrote this out kind of for an example. These aren't any of the lines that I'm dealing with in this problem, but for example, if I had a slope of up 2 over 3, and I wanted to have a line that would be perpendicular to it, you can see I can take this right triangle. I could take, for example, this right triangle, and I could rotate this thing 90 degrees. And in the act of rotating it 90 degrees, you can see that the rise and the run switch places, right? So what was the rise of -3 becomes now a positive 3 for the run, and what was a run of 2 is now a rise of +2. So they definitely switch places, and you can see one of them had a negative slope. This line has the negative slope, so this one's going to have a positive slope. So two things: if I'm given a slope and I'm told that the line is perpendicular, I'm looking at opposite reciprocal slopes. So when I'm told that it's going to be perpendicular to this line in part B I had a slope of -3/2. So now I'm working with a slope of +2/3. This line right here, this slope rather, will be perpendicular to the slope of -3/2. And then again, you can see I've got a particular x value of 4 and I've got a y value of 0. So I went ahead and plugged in y was 0. I plugged in my slope of 3/2, and I plugged in my y value of 4. And with all of those plugged in and simplified, I ended up getting a y-intercept of -8/3. And that's why the equation of this line is y equals 2/3 x minus 8/3.